Oh, yeah. There we are.
Woo!
Live.
Let's
Hello,
go.
everybody.
Hey.
Welcome in. I'm
Yes.
Leti.
Woo! And I'm Justin.
We are just like us.
Let's go, baby.
Thank
Welcome
you.
in,
Woo.
you guys. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yes.
Man, what an exciting time it is to be alive.
Mm.
And speaking of which, we are live. Let's go.
We are
Okay,
live.
so in this episode today, we are going to be discussing setting boundaries for growth. Let's go on that move. Let's go. You want to start us out with that?
Setting boundaries. Boundaries, they're essential for personal growth and mental health. We want to learn how to set and maintain boundaries in your relationships and in your daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
how do we do that?
Boundaries.
How do we set boundaries? For me, I didn't even know what boundaries were. Like I didn't grow up with, boundaries. It was just always, yes, do this. Okay, do that. Don't do this. So growing up, I didn't have boundaries. So, I let people walk all over me because I didn't set boundaries. And now that I've started to set boundaries, some people don't like that. They get upset when I'm setting boundaries. And so, what are some of the ways that you guys have set boundaries for yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I think some of the boundaries that I have set have been important because even just recently, being able to shut certain things off or block people out or delete numbers has been important for me and vital for my health and for my success and for, my everyday, routine of just being here. I want to be able to make sure that my energy is spent in the right places and not just giving it everywhere, because I've been known to really go hard and go all out for other people that really don't deserve my energy. I feel, and who can say that I can?
Yeah.
Who really deserves my energy and who really deserves, and so I may have guided myself by not really, giving the right approach to people and giving the energy where it needs to be. So setting those boundaries have been essential, and I'm still working on it. I'm not a professional at this by any means. I'm working on setting boundaries because I used to be a yes man. And I don't feel like that's beneficial to me at all. Being able to say no is now a power to me. Not that I'm like, I think it's great to be able to say, because for me, it was hard for me to say no. It really was. It used to be difficult for me to tell people no.
So
and it would almost like hurt my feelings because I'm like, well, and I'll find reasons to like, to like backtrack on what I'm saying. Like, well, okay, maybe I can do that. Maybe I that's right. And I'm like talking myself in or out of things that I should be talking myself out or into. And being able to set these boundaries has been really, it helps me on a daily because I don't want to just give my energy to somebody who doesn't deserve it. And who's, like I said, who can tell me who deserves it? I get to say who deserves my energy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If I was a devil worshiper, well, then maybe I'll give my time to the devil. But I'm not. So I'm not going that route. I'm not going to be around people who are not, positive. I like positivity. So I'm around people who are typically people that believe in Christ, that believe in God, that believe in the light and things like that. So for me, I'm around people who are upbeat, positive. And I have to be able to draw a line in the sand and saying, this is not the kind of people I want. And I'm okay with that, because if I was hanging around people who, were in the substance life or in the addiction life or even in the drinking kind of, and I mean, drinking is so common that, who doesn't drink? Well, I don't, but it's just one of the things where I set my boundaries and I want to be able to create a clear, transparent line that people, a line in the sand saying, I don't want you around if you're going to be doing this or that. And I'm okay with that because I got a family. I got things that I can lose. I got, if I was to get high and smoking weed or something like that, and then go get in a car accident, that could ruin my life. I could go to prison for life. And so I'm saying, for me, I draw that line, and I want to be able to make sure that I have a bubble. My boundary is set for me so that I can make the decisions and the right choices to help me and my family.
Yeah,
so it's important.
I think boundaries bring clarity too, right? They bring clarity to the person setting them and to the person on the receiving end of that, know. And it was so hard, like you said, it was so hard to set boundaries because I was that yes person too. And when I said no, I would feel bad. And then, like you said, come back and be like, well, maybe, I'm setting boundaries where no is a complete sentence. I don't have to explain myself, over explain myself. I can just say, no, not now, and leave it at that. you know, and it's been difficult at times because I want to explain why I'm not, right? But I'm learning that I don't need to do that. And sometimes setting boundaries with each other, I think it's been really, you know, difficult, especially coming out of what we came out of, you know, the substance abuse, the drinking, and, you know, it's been hard to set boundaries, I think, even with each other.
Right.
You know, there's been times you've had to cut me off,
Right.
and there's been times I've had to cut you off, and it always, you know, works out. Like we get to this understanding, even though, you know, we might not agree with it, or we get upset with each other, you know, about it. I think in the end, you know, we do respect each other's boundaries, and I think that that's really, really important. And it's a you know, like a give and take, you know. I mean, I'm learning too, you know, and sometimes
I'm a professional. No.
sometimes I can, you know, go too far to one side or the other, right? And so I'm just learning where my flow is, where my harmony with my boundaries are, and you know, they matter. They really do. And I'm seeing that more and more, and the boundaries even with, you know, that you set with yourself, you know, that you don't want to allow yourself to cross are important too.
Right,
and what are some boundaries that you've had some trouble setting?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So some that I've had trouble setting are, like I said, being able to say no. And I think like recently has been really important to have that the ability to say no and not feel bad about it. Because if somebody's asking me something, let's be real, they should honestly expect a no answer. I don't want to feel like just by me saying no, like I have to. And so I give that, you know, now and I give that responsibility to them now, instead of me taking, you know, if they're asking me, if somebody has the nerve to ask me for $20, not saying that's bad or good. I'm saying if somebody, you know, was going to ask me for $20, but they can be expected to be told no too. And I don't have to give a reason. And that typically would be hard for me to do because I'm like, dang, I got to give them a reason. I feel bad because I know I got the $20 in my pocket, but that's going to go to, you know, food or whatever. And it when they're just like, hey man, can I get $20 just to see if they can get it or whatever? It's good for me to be able to say no, because I've been a yes man my whole life. And I'm not saying like I would just do what everybody else wanted, because that's not me. But what I'm saying is, like I said, being able to say yes, I felt good about saying yes because I felt like I'm helping somebody else out. If somebody's in needs, I don't want to get mixed up the setting boundaries and not being able to be myself, because I do like to see people happy. I myself like to help people. So
for sure.
Just by me, you know, setting a boundary doesn't mean that I don't like to see people win. Doesn't mean that I'm not like happy to see people get something that I'm able to give. So you know, but I think it's really important for me to be able to define like what that means, like to be able to say, okay, for me, having the ability to say no is no longer like hard to do. It's no longer like difficult for me to say no. And it may sound like a bit crazy, but I just liked to see people, you know, if I had it, I would give it. And if people were asking, okay. But I found that some people would kind of like overdo it. They know that I'm vulnerable in that sense, and that I'm a giver. Some people would, you know, take advantage of that, and it would create this funk of like, you know, man, I'll beat you up, dude. You know what I mean? And I'm not a violent person, but if I feel like somebody's being bullied, or like, you know, I don't like to feel like people are taking advantage of me. So it would create like this own, you know, like kind of not violence, but animosity that could create some kind of violence. Because I mean, you know, back in my days, like I'll knock a dude out, and I'm not proud of it, but I'm not ashamed of it either. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I would just go bullying because I wouldn't. But you know, I mean, if somebody did me wrong, or you know what I mean, I'll beat somebody up, and that's not how I like to be or feel anymore. Because I mean, I don't have to live like that. But you know, drawing that line and being able to say, hey, this is my boundary now. With anything, I feel good about that, and having that ability shows my son, shows my lady, like I do have boundaries, and I'm not gonna let anybody cross them. You know what I mean? Okay, I'll let the little Justin. You know what I mean? He got to, but even then, you know what I mean? Like I have to set my boundaries with him too, because certain things, you know how kids are. Kids tend to push, and they like, you know, if they feel like they can get it, it's just kind of our natural how we are as people. You know what I mean? If I can ask you for something to give to, well, maybe they'll give me more. Same as kids, you know. I mean, and they're probably the smartest ones at it because they don't have a filter. You know what I mean? They're not trying to really, you know, they're working their way around it. But I mean,
or even on the other side of that spectrum, right? Not asking for enough. You know, like I was always afraid to ask. It's just going to be a no, right? I'd already say it for you before I would even ask, you know. And I think boundaries are important for protecting your peace too, you know, not letting people in to disturb, you know, what you've got going on, or you know, create resistance, or you know, there's been times where I've done things that, you know, have really been good for me. And sometimes you've balked a little bit at that, you know,
Right.
and I've had to just say, it's not negotiable, right?
Right,
This
yeah.
is for
Yeah.
my mental health. I
And I
know it
respect that.
seems,
I do.
you know, I know it seems like, you know, I'm gone a lot, or I'm, you know, doing stuff for other people, but it's really good for me. And
Right.
then in turn, you know, it's happened with you where I'm feeling like, hey, you know, you're out here, you know, doing all this stuff for other people, and what about me, right? So it's this, you know, this dance that we're trying to, you know, do, and we're great dancers. So what the
Phenomenal.
heck?
I mean, and it's working. Like, we've been going strong for 6 years. And again, every relationship's gonna have its ups and downs, but I like to think that we have more ups and downs because we work on stuff. You know, we really adjust when we need to. And again, like, what makes a relationship without, you know, the ups and downs? Like, really, those will make you strong. Is what, you know, you can pivot and make moves on things that you may not always agree. But if I have somebody like me, I'll probably want to beat me up. I mean, either that or I'll be really love this person. So again, like I'm glad that we have such different, you know, ways of thinking and doing things, because we really sharpen each other up. We really complement each other so many ways by not thinking alike. Because I like who I am. I love who I am as a person, but I know the things that annoy me about me. You know what I mean? And so I know, like, I'll probably have some issues with me. You know what I mean? Like, man. But really, I'm just glad that we have such different mindsets and such different ways of doing things, because again, we really sharpen each other. Because you know, I mean, we really do. We complement each other in the best ways. I mean, and you guys can see we have good energy. We have great energy. We love each other. You know, we've gone this far, and we're going strong. And so, even when it looks like, you know, things could be a bit rocky, like, we still are able to, you know, look at things and like, man, we've come a long way. We're still going strong. I mean, just in like the past year, how far we've come in our sobriety, in our being, you know, and the ability to show up for ourselves. Because it's not easy to just put that oxygen mask on. Because when you think of the saying, putting the oxygen mask on means the person next to you is not going to be able to get that oxygen that could potentially save their life. So the point of it is to say, I'm going to be able to put this on, and I will do everything I can, because I am aware of what is at stake here. Is our lives are at stake here. I'm gonna put this on, and I'm gonna make sure I do everything to make sure that you live. You know what I mean? Because you may not have that. Your instinct is gonna have you live, but I'm not saying I'm smarter than the person next to me. I'm saying, let me put this on because I'm ready. I am ready to live, and I'm ready to make sure that you live too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're like, oh, you're just kind of going that, you know, and that what's it called when it's serene and like you feel like you go. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I don't want to. I want to make sure that I'm able and capable of doing what I need to do to make sure that we live, and I have the ability, because I think about that kind of stuff. I want to make sure that we go.
It was so the opposite for me. I was always putting the oxygen mask on everybody else, right, while I was, you know, suffocating. Right. And I've learned today, right, that the most important thing is me, and to put that on me, because when I put it on me, then I'm automatically able to give you more air, so to speak, give you more space, give you more of what you need, because I have what I need. You know, that was a really hard concept for me. I had a hard time with it. I felt guilty. You know, I felt, just awkward, you know, like, really, like, do this for me, you know, and tell this person that I love, that I've been doing all these things for, that I'm not going to be able to do it at that capacity anymore, right? And you're just going to have to trust me, and, you know, and vice versa. It works both ways. And I think what's really important is sharing those boundaries with each other, right? And getting a feel for each other, but also not negotiating, right, when it comes to the boundaries we set for ourselves, so that we can grow personally and together, professionally, in every way, you know, imaginable.
Right.
It's really important. I never understood the importance of setting them, and what that could do, the freedom that it could bring. You even, you know, there were times when I'd be like, man, this guy, what? He's cutting me off. He's not gonna like talk to me about it. Like, what? But then I started to look at it from, you know, a different perspective, when I had to start putting on my own oxygen mask and not depend on you to breathe for me, so to speak, right? I had to make decisions on my own. Again, you know, after coming out of substance use and alcohol, and, you know, and all the other, you know, things I use to keep people away and not have to set boundaries. Right.
Yeah.
I let life railroad me for a while, for a little bit there, just because I didn't know how to say no. And, and now that I've learned that, it's been a game changer for me, and the way that my relationships work. And of course it's rocky sometimes, it's trial and error, but at the end of the day, we're able to come together and talk about, how that made us feel, or, even the good that came out of it, yeah, you were upset, but look what came from it, and I could see that for him too. Like, even if I would be upset, I could be like, okay, I see why he did that. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense now, right? I'd have my little, tantrum. Sometimes they were big.
Right. And I want to touch on just now what happened was before coming to this podcast. Something cool was having boundaries. This is a great topic because I am a captain within the academy that I'm in, and a captain means I show up and I hold space for some of the students that are coming into this academy.
Yeah.
And there's about 11 people in my room right now. By my room, I mean there's a Zoom that I hold, and I'm the one hosting it, and I'm saying, and I'm giving, pointers and knowledge and things that's to come as students.
Yeah.
And our podcast is something that we have been staying consistent with no matter what. And so I'm in the middle of this captaincy with millionaires, and like there's several people in there that are very successful, and I'm holding space for them. And in fact, when we had to come on here, Jamie, one of his multi-millionaire, she was in my room. She was kind of giving some feedback to the students.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to interrupt, but I had to get here to this because this is important to me, regardless of what I have, that I've already dedicated myself to. This is my oxygen mask. This is what I got to do for me, because I'm highly involved in this, and I'm like, I show up, I show out, and I need to be able to draw that line. And so, but Leti here, she's very good at, being able to set boundaries. And even though we're not perfect at it, but again, this was a great exercise, because just now before I came in this room, she's like, all right, it's time. I'm like, okay.
But then I was like, okay, it's time. Like,
let me get a second to, so I said, let me get a second to let them know. And she's like, we got our thing. And I'm like, and so I was like kind of torn, but I did have to just say, look, y'all, I got to interrupt you, Jamie. I'm sorry, but I got to go. I've got something that's pressing for me that I want to show up for the people who show up for me, and for all you guys who've been tuning into this. Yeah. I didn't realize how many people actually watch this. There are actually several hundred people that watch this, and it feels good. But we want to get, further with this. We want to be able to reach more people and to be able to have more feedback and things like that. So if you guys can, the people that are watching this, let us know how we're doing. If there's something that we could do better, let us know. Give us some pointers, give us some ideas. We're new at this. This is what this is 20. This is episode 20. So kudos to us, shout out to us for showing up. But again, we want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do, and that's really reaching you guys and being able to, because again, without anybody to watch us, what good is it going to be for us to just kind of do it for ourselves? It just doesn't make too much sense. So to have some feedback from your guys, and what could we do better? Is the topics that you guys want to discuss? Are we even this entertaining? Are you guys watching the whole? I feel it's important to ask you guys what's going on, how you guys feel about this, what we could do different, what we could do better. So if you guys can, if anybody makes it this far in the video, let us know what you guys think. Let us know what we could do better. Let us know how, if you could rate this from 1 to 10, get in there, let us know, because again, it helps the algorithm, helps us. I want to know what I can do better. Because you know what I mean? I'm drawing the boundary of like, where do I want to be in a year from now? I want to have this podcast up and running to where we're like worldwide. It would be nice to be on a platform which is right here, worldwide. And it isn't a dream. This is something that is actually a plan, is to be out there and have the masses see us and be able to add value to people. And let's really get into this and make this a lifestyle. We want to be able to do this and make a living from showing up and being consistent with you guys. But again, without people's support and without people's insight on what we can do better, how do we know? So, you guys feel free to chime in and let us know what we could do better. And, we do appreciate having people here. It's fun. It's fun to dress dress up and be just like us. Yeah. It feels good, because again, consistency is really important and key in my life right now. And I know it is Leti's.
Every area of your life.
It feels so good.
Consistency.
Yeah,
it does.
the ability to, to have a platform again to show up and do this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And the compliments and the comments that I get from people are like, I've had, people say, you guys are doing extremely good.
Yeah.
And the difference between something like, hey man, that attaboy, and you're like, hey, that's kind of cool, and I see people that are going out of their way to say, hey, I've been watching, I watch on the daily. I got my boy Eric, if he's watching, shout out to Eric. He watches all the time, you know what I'm saying? And for all you guys who do watch consistently, thank you guys again for being part of this, because it feels really good. I mean, it's good practice to get in front of people. I was able to MC the Bone Thugs and Harmony concert, and I'll be honest, it was a bit nerve-wracking getting up there, because if I know what I'm going to say is one thing, but these things take time to get up here and do these things. You got to really have the ability to get up on stage and perform. This is live. There's no cutting it. It's like, oh, let's gotta make sure that you're on point. There's a bit to this, but it feels good.
And we're learning all that, the different tools that, that we can use. And, one of our mentors says it's not a lack of resources. It's a lack of resourcefulness, right?
Yes.
And we have had to get pretty really resourceful and in a way for us, to be able to go live on this podcast page. We can't do that until March 1st, where we're able to interact with you, right? That's why we're not able to see your comments, because we're using a different platform, but that's okay.
It's going to be a game changer.
It's just practice. That's how I look at it. It's going to be a game changer.
Right? I'll be in there typing to y'all, man. Check it out. You know what I mean? Shouting you guys out. So I'm excited for that. But maybe the buildup is what's going to make it even more exciting, because, one of these aphrodisiacs is anticipation. No, but really, I think just leading up to that, when we finally get to go live and see your guys' things, I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I really wish we could see you guys' comments right now. For whatever reason, it hasn't worked out like that. I really, really wish we could figure that out. But I guess, it is what it is. So kind of, wishing that could be taken care of, but it is what it is. So, but again, soon we will have the ability to see you guys' comments and be able to chime in and be able to even, like, I know we've spoken about this. This is a couple of times. I just want to point this out, that the guests that we've been having on, like, for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. You know what I mean? It's like, it's been, the weather didn't permit us to get down to where we were going last time. My friend's mother passed away the time before that. And so there's just whatever reason it's working out to where, we haven't had the guests. So be it. We ain't upset. We ain't mad. We hope you guys aren't either. You know what I mean? We're still pushing forward, moving strong. There. We're not letting anything keep us down from doing what we got to do. Right. You know what I mean? So again, this episode about setting boundaries is really important, I think, for me, because I've had to set the boundaries this past year, and who I want in my life and who I don't want in my life. And it's come down to I have a handful of people, a phenomenal circle of people that have proven to have that character, that the things that I want in my life, and that's love, respect, the essentials that but really the community, the people that show up for me. And then I'm not judging them on like what they are or aren't doing. It just feels good to have people that want to be around you, that want you around. Yeah, if someone generally wants you around them, and they're just like this, you like, hey, they're happy, and they call you and they check in with you and they make sure you're okay. Like, what can I do? Like, those things are super important, man. Especially if you haven't always had that in your life, you haven't always had the support, and then you have people that really constantly want you around.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I have felt like that often in my life. I grew up thinking, like, for me, I was alone a lot on purpose because I was trying to protect myself. But then what that did to me is it kept people out. It kept, me from receiving support. And then I would get upset, like, nobody's supporting me. But you just pushed them all away, right? And that's a pattern that I recognize, and I'm not all the way there yet, but it's something that I do recognize, and I'm working on to, not get on that pity party bus.
Right. Yeah, I'll be staying off. Stuff, man.
And and for some of us that takes a while, especially when you've been on the other side, because I'm sure for you didn't just wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to be positive, and that's how it was. I mean, there had to be some, some things that happened in your life, and then you had to practice being positive, because it's a practice. Right? One
day you can almost die one day and just be like, you know what, you're not going to live. It just depends. Like, some people are different. Some people may take a traumatizing whole lifetime for them to get over it, but for some people it may not. So I'm not going to say it could take one person this long at all.
How was it for you? Like, what was a defining moment for you where you said, I want to live I want to be positive? Because I wasn't always negative. Not everything for me was negative. Often, yes, it got to that point because of, all the trauma that I had. Right.
And since I was a kid, I feel.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like as I was
Because
a
I
kid,
was, I was super
I see my
positive
parents
as a
fighting, and I
kid.
was like, I have every reason in the world. Like, I am like genetically prone to be an addict. I'm genetically prone to be, an alcoholic. Because everybody on my family is all alcoholics, like legit down in my blood. It's in my. I have the gene addict traits. You know what I mean? I do, but I'm not gonna let that define me. So for me, I think like growing up and having my parents arguing and fighting, and like having grown up in around violence and things like that, like the neighborhood I was in, like we fought a lot. I didn't really like that stuff. I don't like hurting people. You know what I mean? I've knocked some dudes out like straight up, bah, and I've never hit anybody on the ground. Like, I mean, I'm not honoring that, or I'm not saying that that's, I'm not glorifying violence. I'm saying for me, I just never liked like being like upset, or like so for me it's been something like, I've been a goofy since I was a kid. Goofy meaning like I like to be happy. I like to be super happy. I like to make the fun out of everything, and like there's, I'm sure, times where I just am like, this sucks, but like for the most part, like I've been in such practice of like staying positive. Anybody who knows me, I'm sure there's several people who know me, like many people have never seen me mad, and I know people for years in my life, because I will find the good in even in the darkest places. That's how I am. That's how I choose to be. I wasn't like born like that, but I choose to be happy. I choose to be positive because it's such an attractive thing to me. I love it. I love who I am, because I will be goofy about it. I'll make the fun of the stuff, but I got several people. I got people from here then down to the scum.
But I think you have to come to that realization for you, right? That you have a choice, right? Because I didn't think that I did. And that made me miserable, right? Because I didn't think I had a choice. Like, I'm just accepting the fate. This is the way that it is. I can't change that, and some things you can't change. But I can change
your mind.
But I can
definitely
that's
change your
where
mind.
I was getting
you
to.
Change
but
your
you
mindset,
can
you know what I mean?
change your mindset.
You change your mind. Your heart could be hurt, but you don't have to let that be something that defines who you are. You don't have to let that carry on, because for me, I feel like I have a choice to be either happy or unhappy throughout the day. I do. And so like I can, if I reflect on the things that I've gone through as a child, like I will be unhappy. I don't want to feel like these things are like would define me, because guess what? Right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just turn left and go look at something that makes me smile. Like for me, that makes sense to me. It does. So I don't have to almost die to learn. I don't have to almost die to learn. Like, okay, I want to be happy. I don't want to have to go through the negative stuff to know that I could be happy. I just want to know that I could be happy. And guess what? I have God-given free will to be happy, so I do.
Yeah, we do.
And there's chemistry. There's a lot of stuff that, because again, I've been to that point where I'm like, damn, this is hard, being like feeling this depression. But for me, how I learned how to deal with it was just sitting with it. Normally, like I said, I would go escape with substance or alcohol or cigarettes or whatever it is, food or whatever.
Men or women.
But me and being able to sit with it has been, and again, this may not work for everybody. I'm just saying for me, like I will find the good and stuff because it resonates well with me. Like I feel like I'm doing good to the earth, to my brothers and sisters, by me not stomping around being upset. I'm not looking at the negative stuff because it doesn't benefit me. I feel like that makes me stressed. I feel like I look young because I feel good. I'm not constantly you negative. And I've had that in my life. Like me and my mom, like I've just used my mom as an example. Like my mom at a point for a long time in my life was like a negative Nancy. And I'm not talking negative on my mom. My mom, rest in peace. But I'm saying my mom and I we bumped heads because she was like, she was kind of like bitter about things. And that was after, kind of like really after my dad died, she was kind of like, my mom was hurt. She was sad. She was lonely. She was all these things that I didn't understand. I don't know. My mom had chemo and cancer. Like, so there was things about her that I didn't know, you know what I mean? But so my mom was just like, I felt like my mom was like ready to go a long time ago. I'm not saying that she was, but I just feel like my mom, she's coming off like miserable. So me and my mom, I could only be around my mom for so long before I'm like, I don't want to be around negative. And I feel like crying right now because, having the choice to be around someone and having that the boundaries that you set is important. Even with my own mom, like I miss her to death. I miss her so much, but having the ability to set those boundaries is so important. If somebody's not resonating with you, like you have a choice, unless you're in jail. Unless you're, you're 5 years old and you're in a room with your brothers, but let's face it, we all have the option and choices. So let's make the decisions and set the boundaries for us to be able to do what we need to do to make sure that we're doing our best. Because guess what? Me setting these boundaries has been so essential and important for me to be able to move forward and, to be able to walk into the light that I'm supposed to be in. And that's where I'm at right now. So,
and that's, I mean, I couldn't agree more, right? It's about walking into your light, it's about transmuting that darkness, but you have to know that you're in it,
right?
You have to acknowledge it to be able to transmute it. And let's face it, some of us, like for myself, got comfortable with the darker parts of myself, and I mean like the anger. It became a part of me. It became something that I, you know, craved subconsciously without realizing, because it became such a natural part of how I went about, you know, my days. If things didn't go my way, I got upset. And it's really, at the end of the day, I was upset because I couldn't control a person, place, or thing. And what I've realized, right, is I never had control of people, places, or things, nor do I want to have control. I want to have control of what I can and what I can do.
Right. And set boundaries.
Yeah. And that's,
give it a set those boundaries.
and that's, you know, like I said, even setting them with myself and making sure that I'm not betraying myself when I set those boundaries.
Right.
Right. And
It's
so
important.
I think
It
that's,
it is very
really
important.
important. So,
and again, we hope to hear some of you guys' feedback. You know, it helps to have you guys, you know, adding comments. For me, I love going and reading all of them, because if you haven't noticed yet, I go in and read all of them, I respond to all of them. It feels good. It shows that people are they're involved. So if you guys hear this message, if you guys made it this far, you know, put some comments in there. Help us out with the algorithm. Help us, you know, start making this channel actually something that we can bubble and make, you know, bigger, because the only people we're reaching right now is our friends. But coming, like, you know, I think we're going to be able to reach all you guys. So I want to say, you know, thank you guys for being a part of this and being a part of this community.
We love you.
You know, we do love you guys, and let's, you know, let's keep on pushing toward the goal. And that's like making this bigger. So thank you guys for being a part of this. And until next time, you guys, peace. Love y'all. Have a good one, you guys.